ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येम अक्षभिः यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैर्तुष्टुवांसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति नः इन्द्रो वृद्रश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नः तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्ददातु यो अन्तः प्रविश्य मम वाच इमां प्रक्षुप्तां सञ्जीवयति अखिलशक्तिधरस्वदाम्ना अन्यांश्च हस्तचरणश्रवणत्वगादीन् प्राणान्नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यं लसतु श्रीमदानन्दतीर्थेन्दुर्नो हृदम्बरे यद्वचश्चन्द्रिका स्वान्तसन्तापं विनिकृन्तति पदवाक्यप्रमाणज्ञान् प्रणम्य शिरसा गुरून् व्याकरिष्ये यथाभूतं विष्णुतत्त्वविनिर्णयम्. So good morning, good evening, and good afternoon for friends who joined us today for the 39th session, and wish you all a very happy Deepavali, and you all had, I hope you have all had a wonderful few days with your family and friends. So let's move on. So let's think about the rishis, Atharva, Angira, Satyavaha, Angirasa, and Shuanaka, and all the acharyas. The Devata is Aksharanamaka Paramatma, and Anushtup and other chandas are the key components of this particular Upanishad. We are currently in the Dvitiya Mundake, Dvitiya Mundake, Dvitiya Khandaha, and we are at the tail portion of this particular Upanishad, tail end of the second Khanda of the second Mundaka. Okay, so where are we at this point? So we are in this particular verse. Last week, what did we do? Manomayaha Prana Sharira Neta Pratishtito Anne Hrudayam Sannidaya Tad Vijnanena Paripashyanti Dhiraha Anandarupam Amrutam Yadvibhati Vidyate Hridaya Grantihi Chidyante Sarva Samshayaha Kshiyante Chasya Karmani Tasmin Drishte Paravare. So this was the verse we did last week, and it was I accept that it was a little bit complicated, and perhaps we got into some deep hardcore philosophy last week, which probably is not a crazy thing to do. So every time we have an opportunity, we should always go back to the basics. I think the key is, unless we get the basics right, unless our foundation is strong and correct, I think the direction that we are going to follow will be pretty I would say dangerous. So we need to look at these things. So we understood that what Angirasa is telling Shuanaka is this Swabhava Ajnana Vada of Jivas. Jivas have got ignorance. It's the Jivas that have ignorance. What is the ignorance they have? They have ignorance of their true nature called Jivachadika. They have the ignorance of God who is there as their Antaryamin. That is called Paramachadika. And ignorance of the nature of things. Everything is transient in this world, but the Jiva doesn't understand this. And that kind of ignorance is called Shaivala. And the ignorance of our dependence on our Antaryamin for every transaction in our existence, even that we have forgotten, and we think we are the center of the universe and we are the independent, decider of our fate, and so on and so forth. So that also forms the ignorance. So these four components of this ignorance is only on the Jivas. And that's called Swabhava Ajnana Vada, and at least that is the view of Angirasa. It is certainly not ignorance on Brahman, which would be quite a sad situation. Yeah, so that we understood last time. And why did we have to do this discussion last week? The discussion is, it is the Jivas that have the ignorance. And when the Jivas have the Aparoksha Jnana of the Paramatma, there are some advantages to it. There are some benefits to it. If there are no benefits, then why bother doing all this arduous task of Shastra Abhyasa, Shravana, Manana, Dhyana, and everything else? There is no point in doing this. There has to be some result at the end. Yeah. So that result is Vidyate Hridaya Grantihi Chidyante Sarva Samshayaha Kshiyante Chasya Karmani. So your karmas are destroyed, your ignorance, and because of ignorance, the doubts and confusions, they are removed, or they are cut, or they are disentangled. So the first two are disentangled, whereas the third one is destroyed. Okay. And that is why in this Upadi Kandana Tika, what Jayatirtha says becomes very important, and it's always worthwhile reciting this again. Paramatmano Atyanta Bhinnasya, which means the Jivas are infinitely different from Paramatma. Swachit Ananda Atma Kasyapi Jivasya. Although the Jivas have Swarupananda on their own, why have they forgotten this? Anadi avidya kama karmadi nimitto ayam. Because of anadi avidya, Because of anadi, avidya, kama and karma have all come on the jivas. That is what is the nimitta for this entanglement of the jivas. Yeah. Paramartha eva anyatakaaraha dukkadi anarthaha, and they are suffering with all sorts of disease and sufferings that they have in this samsara. How can we get rid of this? How can we get rid of avidya? How can we get rid of this, skamya, sakamya karma, sakamyas? How can we get rid of all the sakamya karmas? Parameshwara prasadat rute apagachati. It cannot be removed unless there is a grace of the Paramatma. We should never, ever, ever forget that. Yeah. Nacha asakshat kruto asau prasidati. That grace of Paramatma for the removal, vidyate hridaya grantihi, chidyante sarva samshayaha, chiyante chasya karmani. These three cannot happen without aparoksha jnana. So there is a double negative here. Nacha asakshat kruto asau prasidati. Okay, it's a very, very important fundamental verses that Jayatirtha is giving us in this Upadhi Kandanatika, which is very much inspired by the Vedas. And when you look at the Atharvana Upanishad here, it fits in so beautifully. Okay? So the key point there is only if a disease really exists, then there is a need for its eradication. Okay, so this is common sense. Only when I have a disease, only when I have a chest infection, then I take an antibiotic to get rid of the chest infection. If the chest infection is imaginary, what is the point in giving the damn antibiotic to get rid of it? Yeah, so we need to think about this common sense. Common sense is also inspired by philosophy, okay? So it doesn't have to be very complicated. Common sense can be very easy, and philosophy also can be very easy if our foundations are right. So ignorance is real. Karma is a real. Karma is a padartha. It exists. It is there. Ignorance is a positive entity. We had a whole range of discussions about what is the ontological status of ignorance last week. It is real. It is absolutely real. It may be a dependent real, but it is real. Right? It has a space-time correlation. Therefore, it is real. So, vidyate hridaya grantihi, chidyante sarva samshayaha, kshiyante chasya karmani, when tasmin drishte paravare. So here, I just want to introduce this very, very inspiring verse that we might remember when we did Ishavasya Upanishad. Okay? In Ishavasya Upanishad, so who is going to tell us who are these two characters here? What is this conversation in Ishavasya Upanishad? Where is that conversation happening? Or what is that conversation between which two characters of this Upanishad? Who is going to remind us of the Isha Upanishad key characters, please?
Yeah.
Anand.
It's Swayambhu Manu and Agni Namaka Paramatma.
Agni Namaka Paramatma. We'll park it there. Neetaji, do you want to make some change?
Yajna Namaka Paramatma.
Okay, thank you very much. So both of you got the answer. So Yajna and Agni, they are the same. I take it, Anaji, so that's fine. So it is a conversation between Swayambhu Manu and Yajna Namaka Paramatma. And there in the last section of that particular Upanishad, you might remember this most amazing verses, about 5 verses, which is basically Sakshatkara Darshana. Okay? So our gurus tell us, when we have our Aparoksha Jnana, okay, when we are having our Aparoksha Jnana of our Antaryamin, we should be saying this mantra. Hopefully this mantra will come to our recollection and we will be able to recite this mantra when we are having our Aparoksha Jnana. What are those mantras worth thinking about? Hiranmayena patrena satyasya abhihitam mukam tatvam pushan apavrunu satya dharmaya drishtaye. Pushan ekarshe yamasurya prajapatya vyuha rashmin samuha tejaha yette rupam kalyanatamam tatte pashyami yovasa vasau purushaha soahamasmi. Vayu, Ranilam, Amrutam, Ata Idang, Basmantam, Shariram, Om Kratosmara Krutam Smara, Kratosmara Krutam Smara, Agne, Nayasupata, Raye, Asman, Vishwani, Deva, Vayunani, Vidwan, Yuyodi Asmad Juhurona Meno, Puishtam Te Namoktim Videma. So these are most beautiful verses where Swayambhuva Manu, when he is having the Aparoksha Jnana or the Sakshatkara of his Antaryamin, who is in front of him, but he is also inside him as his Antaryamin, he is intuiting these mantras of Hiranmayena Patrena Satyasya Abhihitam Mukam Tattvam Pushan Apavrunu Satya Dharmaya Drishtaye. So think about this. Go back to those Isha Upanishad verses and sort of ruminate on what is it that Swayambhuva Manu was saying in these 5 verses. So that Antaryami Darshana. Okay, how is that Antaryamin when we have this Darshana? Okay, and previous verse Angirasa has said that this guy removes everything when we have this Antaryami Darshana. How is that Antaryamin? Very similar verse. The reason why I brought this one, Hiranmayena Patrena, very similarly now Angirasa says, Hiranmaye Pare Koshe Virajam Brahma Nishkalam Tat Shubram Jyotisham Jyotishi Tadyat Atmavido Viduhu is what he says. Hiranmaye Pare Koshe. So this guy who is inside you as your Antaryamin is also Hiranmaye Pare Koshe. Okay, so this Hiranmaye Pare Koshe becomes this whole universe. This guy who is inside you, he is also pervading the whole universe. He is what Angirasa is reminding. Okay, so let's think about this Hiranmaye Pare Koshe. It's an interesting word, Hiranmaya. Hiranmaya is quite a common verse that you will see in various places in the Upanishads. You will see some Puranas it comes, but in Upanishads, in the Vedas, you will see Hiranmaya. So let's think about what is Hiranmaya. Last week I told you that whenever and wherever you see Maya, Mayat Pratyaya, you should think about 3 meanings. Prachurya, abundance, Tadatmya or Swarupa, Vikara or transformation. So we should look at what is the context in which this verse is coming. So in this context, it is talking about this being which is all pervaded in the universe. So it is talking about his Prachurya, his abundance, and that his jnana and his ananda is his own swarupa. It is not external to it. It is its own swarupa. It is intrinsic to it. And such a jnanananda swarupa is everywhere. It's prachurya. It's full of abundance in the universe. So that is what that mayat pratyaya means. So then hiranmaya. Hiran means what? Gold. Okay. So golden color. Okay, so let's think about this, and these ideas come again and again in various Upanishads. So Hiranmaya, so Hiranmaya Kosha in the Upanishads cosmology, the origins of the universe. When the Vedas talk about this, when the Vedas talk about Hiranmaya Kosha, it is the cosmic golden womb or the egg, if you want to call it. That is the Brahmanda, the 24 primordial soup that is there, from which evolves the universe that you and I know now, and we live in this universe that comes from this cosmic golden egg. So if you want to look at the Big Bang, and if you want to think about this golden color stuff that happens at the point of the Big Bang, and then that kind of modifies into various material stuff, you could kind of contemplate this golden figure here as the cosmic golden womb or the golden egg, which is called the Brahmanda. So what Angirasa is saying is this Antaryamin who is inside you is actually in this whole Hiranmaya, in this whole Brahmanda, he is there. Okay, the cosmic egg. So that Hiranmaya Kosha is one meaning there, but we need to think about what is that Hiranmaya that Angirasa is primarily talking about. So if you go to Chandogya Upanishad, when it talks about cosmology, Chandogya Upanishad will say Andam Niravartata. So it talks about this Andam that comes in creation. That Andam is discussed as the Hiranmaya Kosha here in Mundaka Upanishad. This Hiranmaya Kosha's Abhimani is Chaturmukha Brahma. So when that Brahmanda is coming in, when that whole big Mahattattva is there, that's Abhimani Devata is Chaturmukha, right? So there is no surprise. Hiranmaya or Hiranya Garbha as he is called, Hiranya Garbha, Chaturmukha also takes the name as Hiranya Garbha. Okay, so Hiranyamaya Kosha is the Brahmanda. Its Abhimani is Chaturmukha Brahma. So he also becomes Hiranya Garbha. But there is one primary Hiranya Garbha that we should never ever forget, and that's a beautiful, beautiful sukta. Yeah, it's called Hiranyagarbha Sukta of Rigveda, 10th mandala. Okay, and 10th mandala is also called Kshudra Mahakshukta mandala. So it's a very, very important mandala. I've got a quiz coming up. Think about this. So who is this Hiranyagarbha? Is it Chaturmukha Brahma or is it somebody else? Okay. So you have to go to Hiranyagarbha Sukta of Rigveda. Hiranyagarbha Prajapatyaha Kaha Trishtup Chandas Hiranyagarbha Samavartata Gre Bhutasya Jataha Patirekaha Asid Sadataram Prithivim Dyamruto Kasmai Devaya Havisha Videma. So this actually goes on. There are several mantras, riks in this particular mandala that talks about this Hiranyagarbha. Who is it? So very, very clearly says Hiranyagarbha Samavartatagre Bhutasya Jataha. So before creation, Samavartata Agre. Agre means before creation, this Hiranyagarbha was there. So that gives a clue. Before creation, Chaturmukha has not yet come into being. So that Hiranyagarbha was there before creation. What did he do? Bhutasya Jataha. He then brings all these jivas into creation. Then what does it say? This becomes very, very, very profound. Patir Ekam Asid. He is the master of everybody and he alone existed before creation. And the Rishi then goes on and says, who else can I praise? When I do my Yagni Kunda and when I am doing Havis, Sadatara Prithivim Dhyam Amrutema. Who else? Kasmai Devaya Havisha Videma. This Riks finishes off with this beautiful, beautiful verses. Kasmai Devaya Havisha Videma. Kasmai Devaya Havisha Videma. Who else can I praise than Hiranyagarbha, who is the master of this universe? Who else can I pray who became before creation? So it's a beautiful, beautiful sukta. Talks about this Paramatma, this Brahman, who is called Hiranyagarbha. Okay, so let us not forget about who that Hiranyagarbha is. Hiranyagarbha does not come out of somebody else as somebody thinks. No, Hiranyagarbha is Brahman or Vishnu himself. Period. Okay. So here I have a very, very quick quiz. What are the other important suktas in 10th mandala of the Rig Veda? So who wants to take that? We have done some of this here. 10th mandala of the Rig Veda is very, very important. Neeta Su should go for it.
Purusha Sukta?
Very good. Anything else?
No, that's all.
Okay, cool. So remember 10th mandala, okay? It's very important. Purusha Sukta. Narayanaha, Purushaha, Anuštubh, Trishtubh. Purusha Sukta. Ambrini Sukta.
Yeah.
Ambrini Sukta talks about the Shri Tattva. Aham Suvedeti Pitaramasya Murdan Mamayonihi Apswantaha Samudre. Never forget that. How can some people forget Shri Tattva or Lakshmi in their prayers and devotion? It begs belief. If they are serious practitioners of Sanatana Dharma and Vaidika and Vedic philosophy, they just need to go to Ambrini Sukta of the 10th mandala that talks about Lakshmi or Shri Tattva. 10th mandala. Yeah. Nasadiya Sukta. The pre-creation sukta that talks about what was there before creation. That is again a beautiful sukta. So Hiranyagarbha sukta, Purusha sukta, Ambrini sukta, Nasadiya sukta, they all come in 10th mandala. Okay. So slightly, I'm out of context, but I thought that will wake us all up around the 10th mandala. But coming back to the Hiranyagarbha sukta. So where are we? We are talking about Hiranmaye Pare Koshe. This guy who is inside you as your Antaryamin is also in this Hiranmaya Kosha. Okay. Look at this Isha verse that we have just seen just a few minutes ago. That also talks about something called Hiranmayena Patrena Satyasya Abhihitam Mukam Tattvam Pushan Apavrunu Satyadharmaya Drishtaye. There that Hiranmaya Patra is the sun. The sun, the golden hued sun. So there, our Swayambhuva Manu is saying, oh sun, the orange, the golden hued plate, get away from the vision because inside you is the Surya Namaka Nur, Surya Narayana who is there. I want to see him. Who is my Antaryamin? Please move yourself away. Hiranmayena Patrena Satyasya Abhihitam Mukam. This Narayana is being covered by this. Please move is what Swayambhuva Manu is asking him. So Hiranyagarbha is interesting. Hiranya, there are so many Hiranyagarbhas. Brahmanda, Chaturmukha, Vishnu, even Surya is called Hiranyamaya. So it all depends on the context. Okay, that is what I wanted to impress with this particular slide. But just to reiterate the fact that Shuanaka is asking those questions, and Angirasa is telling, look, this guy who is inside you is Antaryami, he's all over the place, he's in the Hiranyagarbha. Okay, that is the first point. Although he is in the Hiranyagarbha, which is made of matter, yeah, Hiranyagarbha is the Brahmanda, right? Hiranmaye Koshe is the Brahmanda, which is made of matter, which has got Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. The modifications of material stuff is this. But Angirasa qualifies who this guy, although this guy is all pervasive in Brahmanda, he is Virajam. He is Brahma. He is Nishkalam. So these are all profound words of Vedic philosophy. So let's have a look at what is this Virajam. Why is Vishnu called Virajam? Okay. Virajam. V plus Rajam. Rajam means what? Rajas. By implication, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, the qualities of matter. Okay. V, he is different. Very, very easy to understand. There is the Sattvas, Rajas and Tamas, the material stuff, whereas this guy is completely different from him. Yeah. He is completely different from him. He is the view, Virajam. Okay. So again, what is the philosophy there is, Vishnu or Paramatma or Brahman, it is an entirely different category. It has got nothing to do with matter. It controls matter. It uses matter to bring universe into fruition, but it is not material. Yeah. What is it then it's made of? Mundaka Upanishad has told already, it is not made of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, but it is Ananda Rupam, Mundaka Upanishad has said. Yeah. Rukma Varanam, it is full of knowledge, it has said. Katha Upanishad, we have understood Ashabdam, Asparsham, Arupam, Avyayam, Tata, Arasam, Nitya, Agandhavachayat. Anadyanantam Mahatah Param Dhruvam Nichaya Tan Mrutyor Mukhat Pramuchyate. Go back to that. He is Ashabdam, Asparsham, Arupam, Avyayam. Nothing material. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad gives a very, very important reference about this Virajam idea. Asangohi evam purushaha. Ayam purushaha. Asangohi ayam purushaha. Okay, think about that. Memorize that verse. Asangohi ayam purushaha. This purushaha is asangaha. Asangaha means he is never attached to the material things at all. He is beyond matter. He controls it. He is immanent. He is transcendent, but he is immanent in this Brahmanda, so that he gives it their reality, their objecthood of knowledge, and their ability to do certain things. That is what he gives. But he is totally unattached and he is totally different. He is Virajam. Our Brahma Sutra also says the same idea. Arupavad evahi tat pradhanatvat. So there is a beautiful Adhikarana itself talking about it. And of course in Adi Parva, our Veda Vyasa himself has said that this Narayana is what? Traigunya Varjitam Ajam Vibhumadhyam Isham Vande Bhavagnam Amarasura Siddha Vandyam, which we recite all the time. Traigunya Varjitam. He is different from all these three gunas. Okay? That is the definition of Brahman. He says this guy has no material thingy, but he is Ananda Rupam, he is Jnana Rupam. Okay? Virajam. Okay? Here I have a small question. There is also another Virajam that we have heard in Vedic philosophy, which may be applicable to us in due course. So who want to tell us what that Virajam is?
It's the Viraja Nadi that we'll have to dip in, hopefully.
Thank you, Suresh. Yeah, I think we all do have that hope. So there is that another Virajam Nadi, and that is very interesting. Why is that Nadi called Virajam? That Nadi is called Virajam because you shed your Linga Sharira at that point of time in that river, and your Linga Sharira is made up of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. Okay, and you shed your material disentanglement, material coverings, which is made up of Rajas, Tamas and Sattva. Okay, hopefully no Tamas, Rajas and Sattva. And then we shed that body in that river, which itself is called Virajam, which I hope you find interesting as to why these things are called by that name. because they have a inner meaning. It is called Viraja Nadi, because when like how we shed our dirty clothes when we go for a bath, similarly, when you go to Viraja Nadi, you shed your dirty Linga Sharira and you became pristine and pure. Okay, so that is the idea there. So he is Virajam and he is Brahma. Okay, so he says he is Virajam, he's got no material thingies, attachments, and he is Brahma. Okay, so here we are very familiar in our group. What is the meaning of Brahman? Okay, so who is going to remind us what is Brahman here? What is the etymology of Brahman? What it means? Because it's all very, very important, right? The verses here of how Angirasa is saying is all, one is linked to the other and the ideas are all very coherent. They are not disjointed ideas that Angirasa is talking about here. So he says, Hiranmaye Pare Koshe, Virajam, and he is Brahman. Okay? So Brahman, as you know, is that which is all pervasive. That which is all pervasive in what? Not all pervasive in nothingness. All pervasive in gunas, all pervasive in time, all pervasive in space. The gunas are virajam. Virajam means what? None of the material gunas. They are non-material, auspicious gunas and all pervasive in time and space. So that Brahman, that Brahma there becomes very significant. And the next one is even more interesting. And he also says this Brahman is also Nishkalam. Okay, so this is one of our popular thing that we commonly encounter in our satsang, isn't it? Nishkalam and Kalam. Yeah. So who wants to tell us about Kalam and Nishkalam? Suresh, I know it's your favorite topic. Do you want to go for it? Talk about the Shodasha Kala Purushaha and why is this Brahman called Nishkalam? So tell us about the Shodasha Kala Purushaha, Suresh.
I'll try, Madhushi. The kalas are these 15 kalas which bind the jiva who is 16 and 17 is the one who is responsible for this bondage. The entire purpose of having attained this human body, which is the highest form, is to enable the jiva to break this kalas and then get closer to 18, who is Vishnu. So Vishnu and Lakshmi are above these kalas at any point of time. They're always nishkalas, while the rest of the jivas are all bound to these in some form or the other, and one has to conquer these to be able to get liberation from this samsara.
Beautifully put, Sureshji. Thank you very much. So, what are we at this point? Mundaka Upanishad itself has told us, Avidyayam antare vartamanaha swayam dhiraha panditam manyamanaha janganyamanaha pariyanti mudaha andenaiva niyamana yatandaha. This is our state at this point. We are in this 15 fences, all because of this ignorance, and we think this fence is very, very secure. This fence of ignorance is very secure, and we are carrying on with our transactions of life. And Angirasa is really, big time. He's telling people who do that kind of a transaction in life. We are all stuck in these 15 fences that emanate from ignorance. We may have some beliefs, and we are confined in this body, right? This body is made of what? Space, air, fire, water, and earth. The Panchabhutas make this body. We are confined in this body. In this body, we have what? Sense organs for Karma Indriya, Jnana Indriya, which dictates what we do. Then we have a mind, which kind of directs our Indriyas to certain directions. Then what we do, we eat. We are stuck with eat. We are dependent on food. Because we have this body, we are dependent on food, which gives us stamina. When we have stamina and our blood sugar levels are fine, they go to the brain and we are able to think. And when we are able to think, we are able to speak. And we are also able to do some actions. So what do we do sadly with all these things at our disposal of thinking, speaking, and action? We are after making properties and possessions. Lokaha. That is what we do. And what do we say when we have big property? Somebody will say, oh, what a rich person, what an affluent person. He is so beautiful and so on. So we are stuck in this. So beautifully captured in Prashna Upanishad. Prana Masrujata, Prana Shraddham, Kam Vayu, Jyoti Rapaha, Prithivi, Indriyam, Manaha, Annam, Annad, Viryam, Tapo, Mantraha, Karma, Loka, Lokeshu cha, Nama cha. So these are the 15 things that we are stuck in. Whereas our Brahman is Nishkalam. Okay, that is the me. Once we understand what is the kalas, then we understand how our Vishnu or Brahman is. Who is our Antaryami? He is Nishkalam. He's got none of these limitations. Yeah, he's got none of these limitations and he is able to do it. And as Suresh very nicely pointed out, Lakshmi, Sri Tattva is also Nishkalam, but her Nishkalam is dependent on the Vishnu. So that is the only subtle difference there between Lakshmi and Vishnu. But Vishnu is the independent Nishkalam who doesn't need any of these to do because he is Jnanananda Maya himself. So those are the two qualities that we know as humans, right? So what is our Veda Vyasa says there are at least 4 things you have to remember when you do contemplation of Brahman. Sat Chit Ananda Atma. This is the 4 minimum contemplation that is required by you humans. Whereas the higher beings, it could be Rishis, Gandharvas, Rishis, Gandharvas and Devatas, they may be contemplating with so many other attributes of Brahman. We just don't know because of our limited capacities. But he's got infinite auspicious attributes. Even if you remember 4, Badarayana says that is a route for your salvation. So he is Nishkalam, becomes very, very beautiful in this analogy. And if we need to become Nishkalam, we have to follow the Shravana, Manana, Dhyana, and then Sakshatkara, then all the things. Then that is when all these things go when you shed your Linga Sharira. Okay, so that is the route. If we need to become Nishkalam at some point, we need to think about what are the fences in which we are operating at this point of time. Okay, so this Nishkalam and Virajam, they become very, very interesting. Remember, the same Mundaka Upanishad, we should always think about internal evidences, what has Angirasa said before. The same Mundaka Upanishad says he's Tamasaha Parastad, he's beyond Tamas. Here it says he is Virajam, he is beyond Rajas. Nishkalam, he is beyond all these 15 fences. He is an entity to himself. Okay? Same ideas captured by Isha Upanishad, which we have done before. Saparyagat, Shukram, Akayam, Avranam, Asnaviram, Shuddham, Apapaviddham. Then comes the master stroke of Swayambhuva Manu. Kavir Manishihi Paribuhu Swayambhuhu Yata Tatyado Arthan Vyadatat Shashvatibhyaha Samabhyaha. He says here, this created universe is 100% real. It is not an illusion, is what Yajnanamaka Param. This is what Swayambhuva was saying. Yata Tatyato Arthan. Never forget these words, but some people twist it. It's their problem again. So Akayam. Nishkalam and Akayam are very similar. Akayam, Linga Varjanat, Varaha Purana, Acharya quotes this. What does Akayam means? Linga Varjanat, the one that does not have Linga Sharira, the one that does not have material body is Akayam, which is the same as Virajam, Nishkalam, Tamasaha Parastad. So all these words, they mean the same thing. Yeah, so let's not forget about this. So we are making good progress. Yeah. Tat Shubram, that guy who is full of auspicious attributes, Brahma, Tat, Tataha, that which is all pervasive, it is pure, Shubram, pure, no defects. Okay, so again, think about the philosophies. How Srimad Acharya brings forth the Vedic philosophy. Brahma means abode of infinite auspicious attributes. Tat Shubram means no defects. Definition of Brahman. He who is the abode of infinite auspicious attributes, he who has no defects. And such a person who is Jnananandamaya is Jyotisham Jyotihi. Okay, so that is important. Jyotisham Jyotihi. He is the light of all the lights. Okay. We know that light is made of what? Photons. This light, the material light, can be made of photons, and quantum physicists will say it is a wave form. It could be wave, it could be photons. GVG, go for it.
Namaskaran. It is me, Shobha Srinivasan here. Can we call this Akayam to be Mukta Jivas also Akayam? Because it doesn't have any dehas, four
Absolutely.
dehas are not there.
Yeah, absolutely, Shobhaji. Yes, you can call them, but we always have to qualify, right? You become Akayam only after you have approached, you had the grace of Paramatma. You become Virajam only after you have dipped in the Viraja Nadi and so on. And we also become Brahma. Yeah, let's not forget that Brahma is also a name of Jiva, which is just a which is has to be taken in context. This Brahma that is Jiva is not the Vishnu. Yeah. There are various Brahmas, right? In philosophy, Vedas are called Brahmas, Jivas are called Brahmas, Mukta Jivas are called Brahmas, Lakshmi is called Brahma, and Vishnu is also called Brahma. So in that sense, we can also become Brahma. Thank you very much, Shobhaji. Excellent. So Tat Shubram Jyotisham Jyotihi. So this guy is the light of all lights. Okay. So again, we need to understand that he is not, when I say Jyotisham Jyotihi, you might ask, oh, you've just said he's Virajam, he's beyond matter. How can he be light? Because light is made of photons or waveforms. So I don't understand this quantum physics, etc. But whatever it is material. Whereas he has already said this guy is non-material. So that when the Veda says Jyotisham Jyotihi, it is not the light, the material light that they're talking about. Light signifies knowledge, right? Light signifies something that is all pervasive. And I was looking at the Catholic philosophy. I was looking at John, one of the apostles. God is light, says John. In him, there is no darkness at all. God is light, says John 1.5, which I thought was really interesting from the Catholic philosophers. And however, Vedas talk about the same entity as Jyotisham Jyotihi, implying he is not made of matter and he is full of knowledge. That is why he is called Jyotisham Jyotihi, that knowledge and Ananda is all pervasive. Yeah. So next then the question arises, you're saying all this, that he is beyond matter, he is Jyotisham Jyotihi and all that. But at this point of time, with my limited material body, I'm not able to see this damn thing, right? I'm not able to. Why is that? Is one question. The other one is, if you look at light in the material world, everywhere that you see flames, there is always the three components of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. That is always there. So I've just put this fire with the wood. Wood is tamas. Fire is sattva. The smoke is rajas. There will always be these components in material fire. Wherever and whatever you look at, you will always see these components. Whereas our Angirasa says, our Brahman is Jyotisham Jyotihi. He is entirely different. He is a light of all the lights. Next, the question is, if he is so big and it's so complicated, I can't see him with my eyes. Who knows this? Okay. And for that, Angirasa uses a beautiful word, Atma Vido Viduhu. Okay. Atma Vido Viduhu. Atma again has so many meanings, right? In Vedic philosophy, Atma can mean the body, Atma can mean the mind, Atma can mean the Jiva, Atma can mean Paramatma. So there's so many things here. So in context, you have to understand this. Atma Vidaha means the self-realized person knows this. So this is a very, very important step towards Aparoksha Jnana. Before we get Aparoksha Jnana, you get self-realization. You understand who you are. Your Jivachadika, the ignorance of your own intrinsic attributes is gone. You get self-realization. Okay? Once the self-realization happens, what happens? You use your eternal indriyas. So you are a Jnanananda Swarupa. You use your non-material indriyas to see this non-material being who is inside you as your antaryamin. That is the only situation and only way in which you can see this guy who is Jyotisham Jyotihi. That you use your Swarupa indriya to see your antaryamin. Okay? That is why Angirasa qualifies Atma Vido Viduhu. So the one who is self-realized then knows this Jyotisham Jyotihi using his non-material indriyas. Okay, so this is beautiful. I think the connection between Vedic philosophy and Catholicism, I think, is very beautiful here. God is light. In him there is no darkness at all. Hiranmayena pare koshe virajam brahma nishkalam tat shubram jyotisham jyotihi tadyad atmavido viduhu. says Angirasa, which is such beautiful philosophy, talking about something that is completely non-material light. So then the next question is, what about material light? Okay, so this is why it becomes very, very contextually relevant. So you are saying this Brahman is all non-material light. What about material light? Immediately Angirasa says, Na tatra suryo bhati, na chandra tarakam, na me vidyuto bhanti, kuto ayam agnihi, tameva bhantam, anubhati sarvam, tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. Exactly the same verse in Katha Upanishad. You may remember this. Na tatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam name vidyuto bhanti kuto ayam agnihi, says Yama to Nachiketa when he talks about this Brahman. And the same thing is intuited by Angirasa in Atharvana Upanishad. And the same thing Veda Vyasa composes or documents what Krishna is telling Arjuna in 15.6. So may I invite one of us to recite 15.6, please. Who wants to go for it? Anand Kulkarni, if you are around.
Yeah. न तद्भासयते सूर्यः न शशाङ्को न पावकः यद्गत्वा न निवर्तन्ते तद्धाम परमं मम.
Thank you, Anand. So exactly the same. That is why there is complete samanvaya of Shastra wherever you look at it. You just need the lens to look at it properly. Krishna is saying the same thing. Yama is saying the same thing. Angirasa also is saying the same thing. Okay. What are they talking about? Na tatra suryo bhati. Sun cannot see him. Number one. The other one is, you cannot see just because the sun is shining the light on it. I.e. meaning he is so non-material. How can something material? For example, for us, daytime, everything is dark at night. Daytime, the sun comes on and we are able to see everything, right? But that is not the situation with Paramatma. Just because the sun is there does not mean you can see the Paramatma. Okay, second meaning there. The third meaning there is sun there, I mean the Surya, Abhimani of Surya, the Surya, Abhimani, Surya Devata, who is the 12th Vedic pantheon. He can also can't see him fully. He may be an Aparoksha Jnani, but he can still not see him fully, usually based on his qualification. Next, what is it? Chandra Tarakam, Chandra, moon. The light of the moon cannot shed knowledge about him, i.e. material things cannot show us that. So is the Chandra Devata who cannot know him fully. Stars. So many Abhimani Devatas of stars have been described in the Vedas. So in the night, when there is no moon, the star's light is there. That cannot show him, nor do all these Abhimani Devatas can know him fully. If it is raining and it's very cloudy, you may not be able to see the moon, you may not be able to see the star, but there may be lightning. Okay, that lightning also cannot show him. Or the mundane things. In our Mrityu Loka, you are having Agni, fire, light, tube light, street light, whatever light, floodlights, whatever light. Fire, 15th rank, Agni Devata. Fire cannot show him because fire is material and he is non-material. So does the Agni Devata cannot know him fully because he is a big guy, but he's still in the 15th rank. He can know only as per his capacity. What to talk about us and where we are? We are nowhere. Yeah, we are nowhere in this equation, and how much effort that we have to do to know this guy. Yeah. So the answer, the approach there is, if material light cannot show him, then how can we see him? So the idea there is, don't search outside. And this is what our gurus keep talking all the time. Don't search outside, going to, again, I mean, it's great to go to all these pilgrimages and temples and this and that, but don't search for him outside. Search for him inside. And our gurus remind us, if you search for him inside, then when you go to the temple, he is available for you outside also. If you don't search for him inside, if you go to the temples, he will not be available for you. Okay, so make that inner journey to understand who this guy is. Na tatra suryo bhati, na chandra tarakam, na me vidyuto bhanti, kuto ayam agnihi. Why do all these fellows cannot show us Paramatma? Because all these things, the ones that we know in our Mrityu Loka, of things that can give light, they are all dependent on this Paramatma for their own light itself. That's what Krishna has said in that verse, right? That Anandji recited just now. Tam eva bhantam anubhati sarvam. Tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. Exactly the same idea of Gita in 15:12. So who is going to take us the 15:12, which is exactly the same thing? Again, Anandji, do you want to come back and finish off with 15:12?
Yeah. Yadadithyagatam tejaha jagatbhasayate yachandramasi yachagnyau tattejo vidhi mamakam.
Thank you, Anandji. So, 15:6 of Gita is directly related to 15:12. So, you should read both this together, which is what Angirasa has done. Natatra suryo bhati nachandra tarakam name vidyuto bhanti kuto ayam agnihi. Why? Tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam. Tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. Yeah, as Krishna says, the light of the sun comes from me. The light of the Chandra comes from me, is what Angirasa has, Krishna has said. That is exactly what Yama has said. So what is it telling us? That here the idea there is, you have the Jiva, you have the Antaryamin. So we are still in that philosophy in this Kanda, right? Let's not forget that you have the Jiva and then there is a Paramatma. So Angirasa is giving us, with all these illustrations, how to understand that relationship between this Jiva and Paramatma. Or the Paramatma is the Bimba and the Jiva is the Pratibimba. What is that relationship? Yeah, of Paramatman or Bimba, yeah, who is Satchit Ananda, and the Jivatman, who is Pratibimba, who also has maybe an iota of Satchit Ananda. What is their relationship? Tameva Bantam Anubhati Sarvam. Okay, Anu there, Anusarati. Based on that, whatever Brahman does, the Jivas do. So there is this Bimba Pratibimba Bhava, that relationship that comes again and again in our satsangs and in Vedic philosophy, saying that we are dependent folks. Yeah? Souls are dependent, period. No argument. If those who think that they are not, it's their problem. Vedas are very, very clear. Na ayamatma pravachanena labhyaha, na medaya na bahuda shrutena, yam yevesha vrunute tena labhyaha, tasyaisha atma vivrunute tanun swam. So this Jiva can do all sorts of stuff, good things. But still, this Paramatma has to select him and say, okay, you have been a good boy, you have been a good Jiva, now I shall show myself to you. So he selects whom he needs to show. That is what is called grace. That is the definition of grace given by Yama in Katha Upanishad, which is what is required. Again, we should never forget that. And get into that arrogance of knowledge alone can be liberating. That will be our downfall. Knowledge should lead to devotion. Devotion leads to grace. Grace leads to our liberation. That is the step that our Acharya has given us for progression. So we need to keep that in mind. Okay. So we are coming to the last verse of today. So after saying all this, Tameva Bantam Anubhati Sarvam Tasya Bhasa Sarvamidam Vibhati. And then he says, look, this Antaryamin is inside you. I've just told you about this Hiranya Maya Kosha. Then I've told you about all the things in the universe that are dependent on him. I will now close this with a summary of what this Paramatma is. Brahmai Vidam Amrutam. Purastad Brahma. Paschad Brahma. Dakshinascha Uttarena. Atashcha Urdvam Cha Prasrutam. Yeah. Brahmaivedam Vishwam Idam Varishtam. And he finishes that at a very high note in the 11th verse. Brahmaivedam Amrutam. Split it open. Brahma Eva Idam Amrutam. This Brahman. Atakasmad Uchyate Brahmeti Bruhanto hi Asmin Gunaha. The definition of Brahman. All pervasive in time, space, and attributes. He is not a zero entity, inert, useless thing. He is full of auspicious attributes. That person alone, Eva, Idam in front of you, Amrutam. So let us do this half fully. So this Brahma Eva Idam, this Brahman is Om. We have done this all. It's an Omkara. Otatvachihi Omkaraha. Uyate iti Om. We have done all that about Om in Mundaka Upanishad. And that guy is Brahman. That Brahman is celebrated as Purusha in Purusha Shukta, 10th Mandala. Purna Shadgunatvad Purushaha. Narayana Sukta. The etymology of Narayana we have done a million times. Again, that is, Narayana itself means infinite auspicious attributes, no difference. Vishnu, Vishal Vyaptav, that which pervades what? Time, space, and attributes. That which enters what? The universe. That which occupies where? Inside you. Antarbahishta tat sarvam vyapya Narayana stitaha. That is why our Acharya very, very beautifully said, Brahma Shabdashta Vishnaveva. And he established that concept for us. So that Brahma eva idam, that Brahman is Amrutam. Amruta can mean deathless. Okay, Mruta means material bodies. He doesn't have any material bodies, so non-material. He is also Amruta. Amruta can mean nectar, sweet, Ananda, blissful. So those are all the ideas of Amruta, that this Brahman is Amrutam. He is everywhere as what? Jnanananda. He is everywhere. Brahma eva idam Amrutam. Where is he? Again, Angirasa gives beautiful. So again, it gives you the idea of the physics of direction that was there in Vedic philosophy. Our Vedic rishis had worked out all the things about directions. Yeah, these directions that we have right now, our direction may be very relative based on the sun. We say east, west, north, south, and so on. What happens if you're in the interstellar space? What happens to Voyager 2, which is I believe gone some 10 billion miles or whatever, is in the interstellar space. For it, what is the direction? What is the east? What is west? What is north, south, and so on? So these are profound ideas. And again, our rishis had worked it all out. So they came up, they said, look, in the universe, there are 10 directions. Okay. Uttara, Ishanya, Purva, Agneya, Dakshina, Nairitya, Pashtima, Vayava, Urdhva, Adaha. So these are all the directions that our rishis had imputed in their Vedas. It's all there. And they said the Abhimani Devata for Uttara is Kubera. Abhimani of Ishanya is by the name Ishana. Purva is Indra. Agneya is Agni. South is Dakshina. So if you remember, Yama is Abhimani, and that is why he is called Dakshina Sapati. Yeah, in Katha Upanishad, Dakshina Sapati comes there. He is called Dakshina Sapati because he is the Abhimani of the southern direction. Nairitya, southwest, Nirriti. And Pashtima is Varuna. Vayavya is Vayu. Zenith, Urdhva is Brahma, Chaturmukha Brahma. Nadir, Adaha is Seshaha. Very apt. Seshaha holds everything together. Gravity, is Sesha, right? He is Adaha. And then our Vedic philosophy says these are all the Abhimani Devatas of all the directions. And in them is all this Bhagavanta in various forms as their Antaryamin and controlling them as what? Kapila, Narasimha, Narayana, Parashurama, Rama, Janardana, Matsya, Hayagriva, Vishnu, Sankarshana. That is how the philosophy goes. It's not that somebody has given these forms a name. It is their adjectives, right? You understand certain attributes of this Brahman who is everywhere. And that is what our Angirasa is saying. Purastad Brahma, Pashtad Brahma, Dakshinastashta Uttarena, Adashta Urdhvam cha Prasrutam Brahma. This guy is everywhere. Purusha Shukta also says the same thing, isn't it? Nabhyam asid antariksham shirshno dhyau samavaratada padbyam bhumim dishaha shrotra tatalokana kalpayan. The dishaha shrotrat is a profound philosophy that talks about this. Okay. All the directions come from his shrotra during creation. Even the directions, the relative directions that we have in this material universe, they emanate from him, says the Purusha Shukta. And these are all the directions that are given in Mundaka Upanishad and in other areas. And you can refer other areas for the Abhimani Devatas and the Antaryamins named for our contemplation. It is not that Kapila is different from Narasimha, Narayana, etc. They are all one and the same. They are all Jnananandamaya. But we just give a name for our contemplation. Yeah. So this atakasmad uchyate brahmeti bruhanto hi asmin gunaha is very, very beautifully described in this verse. There can be no doubt, okay, that Angirasa has not differentiated, oh, this is Nirguna Brahman, oh, this is Saguna Brahman. That is somebody's hypothesis. The Vedic hypothesis is clear. Brahman means that which is atakasmad uchyate brahmeti bruhanto hi asmin gunaha. So this Jnanananda Jyoti is everywhere. We just are not unable to see him now. Okay. And he finishes off by saying this Brahma eva idam Vishwam idam varishtam. Brahma eva idam Vishwam idam varishtam. So this is very, very interesting. Vishwam. Okay. What is the contextual meaning of Vishwam here? And we have to be eternally grateful for Srimad Acharya for actually clarifying it for us. Idam Brahmaiva Vishwam Purnam. Okay, in the Bhashya. Vishwam here means Purnam. Why? Vishwam. So some folks think Brahmeva Idam Vishwam means this universe is Brahman. That cannot be if you look at the contextual relevance, because in Mundaka Upanishad is saying Brahmaiva Idam Vishwam, but the same Mundaka Upanishad in the previous verse said he is Tamasaha Parastat, he is Virajam. He is different from this Vishwam, is what he has said. Okay. When he has already said he is different from this Vishwam, which is made up of Tamas and Rajas and so on, what is that Vishwam that Angirasa is talking about? That Vishwam means Purnam. Okay. That is why we have the Shukla Yajurveda mantra, isn't it? Purnamadaha, Purnamidam, Purnat, Purnam Udachyate, Purnasya, Purnamadaya, Purnameva Vishishyate. This beautiful words. Again, we have done this in Isha Upanishad. This means Paramatma is Purna, his avatars are Purna, his Vyuha forms are Purna, his Bimbarupas are Purna. Every damn thing about this Paramatma is Purna. Let us celebrate this Paramatma is Purna. Okay. It does not mean the universe is Purna and that Paramatma is Purna. That is not the Vedic interpretation of it. The Vedic interpretation is Paramatma, his avatars, his Vyuha forms, it is Avesha forms, his Amsa forms, his Bimba forms are one and the same and are full. That is the meaning, which is what this verse talks about, saying that you have this Brahman in various, aspects everywhere. He is Purnam, Brahma eva idam, Purnam or Vishwam, and he is Varishtam. Idameva Varishtam Sarvottamam. Acharya's definition of what that Varishta. Varishtam is that which is the highest. Idameva Varishtam Sarvottamam. That is why that 15th verse, 15th chapter, the last three, 16 to 18, and again, we should never be tired of reciting that whenever the Vedas say that he is Sarvottam. That is why our gurus tell us 16, 17, 18 are the foundational verses of Vedic philosophy that comes from Gita. So who wants to recite our 15, 16 to 18 before we close today's session, please? Shobhaji, go for it.
द्वाविमो पुरुषो लोके क्षरश्चक्षर एव च क्षरः सर्वाणि भूतानि कूटस्थो अक्षर उच्यते उत्तमः पुरुषस्तवन्या परमात्मेति उदाहृतः यो लोकत्रयम् अविश्य बिभर्ति अव्याय ईश्वरः यस्माक्षरम् अतीतोऽहम् अक्षरदपि चोत्तमः अतोऽस्मि लोके वेदे च कथितः पुरुषोत्तमः.
Srikanji, thank you very much. Beautifully recited. So see how Krishna finishes the Purushottama. Purusha, Purna Shadgunatvad, Purushete Purushaha. There are so many etymologies. This guy is all pervaded in the Brahmanda. He is inside all the jivas and he is full of infinite auspicious attributes. That is what we have done so far in today's class, talking about who this Brahman is. Okay. So, iti Mundako Upanishadi, Dvitiya Mundake, Dvitiya Kandaha. we finish off. So I think we have to pat our back. So this particular Kanda, this Antaryami philosophy of Brahman that Angirasa talks so beautifully, we have done it over several months, but I think we have done reasonable justice to try and understand what is the Vedic philosophy here. Okay. Now here is an important thing. Next question. Okay, so our philosophy, Angirasa, doesn't stop here. It takes us to levels or deeper levels of philosophy. Then he starts introducing a new idea. What is that relationship between Brahman, Jiva, and the material world? Okay. To qualify his statement here, this is very, 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 very important if you want to think about the polemics of Vedic philosophy and the Upanishads. Brahmaiva idam amrutam purastad brahma pashtad brahma dakshinashcha uttarena adashcha urdvam cha prasrutam brahmaivedam vishwam idam varishtam brahmaiveda idam vishwam. He qualifies this statement further. What is that relationship? They are not the one and the same. Okay, Brahman, Jiva, and material world are not one and the same. Okay, they are different, and we need to understand what the difference is. To do that, he starts the Tritiya Mundake Pratama Khandaha. Okay. The most important verse of Mundaka Upanishad. Dva Suparna Sayuja Sakaya Samana Vriksham Parishashva Jate Tayor Anyaha Pippalam Swadatti Anashnan Anyaha Abhichakashiti Samane Vrikshe Purusho Nimagnaha Anishaya Shochati Mukhyamanaha Jushtam Yada Pashyati Anyamisham Asya Mahimanam Iti Vita Shokaha Yada Pashyaha Pashyate Rukmavaranam Kartaramisham Purusham Brahmayonim Tada Vidwan Punya Papena Viduya Niranjanaha Paramam Samyam Upaiti and so on. Over 10 verses, it gives you what happens after you have Aparoksha Jnana. Okay, so that is the next one. Is first you will say, look, you are different, your Antaryamini is different, you're occupying a body that is different. There is a situation where you will shed your body, and then what happens after that? What is that journey? How long you stay where, and so on and so forth, is what this Kanda is going to talk to us about and take us through this beautiful, beautiful philosophy. The very first verse comes in so many Upanishads. Mundaka Upanishad, Shvetashvatara Upanishad, Rigveda Samhita, Atharva Veda Samhita. They come in all these portions that various rishis have intuited this verse, implying this is such an important verse of Vedic philosophy, so that I think we should devote perhaps maybe 1 or 2 or whatever, how many ever classes, satsang it takes for us to understand the gravity of this particular verse that Angirasa is teaching us. So that we will do in the subsequent class satsangs, and I will close today's session by saying Krishna Pranamastu and make a few announcements. Next Sunday, I got some work-related travel, so I'm not here. I'm not in town. So I will pick it up after my return. But I think on the 24th, Neetaji, if you're there, you can correct us. But I think 24th, we have a Gita Chintana, I think. So I will pick this up after whenever the Krishna allows me to do this Dvasuparna, because I am looking forward to it. I was waiting for this verse to come. It has taken us a good 1 year and 4 months to reach this verse. And this verse can be appreciated only after we have understood all the previous 2 Mundakas that Angirasa has spoken about. Then we know how beautiful this mantra is. Okay, so I hope we'll be able to do justice to that. So on that note, Krishna Pranamastu again. And if there are any questions, we'll take it up now. Otherwise, we will catch up in a fortnight's time. Excellent. So looks like we have no questions. So Suresh ji, take us through Om and we close today's session. Hare Krishna, everyone. Take care and stay safe. We'll catch up next week.
Hare Krishna, Hare Namaha.
Hare Krishna.